Good day to you all, and welcome to another summer edition of Munro's Journeys 2021. I'm in Berwick upon Tweed today, going to show you around historical points of interest. I'm down here, starting off at the old bridge, as you can see that behind me. The old bridge, and I'm going to make my way up to town centre, so we'll start the journey right now. Okay, now it's a very old historical town, Berwick upon Tweed, and it's rich in history. Hopefully we'll be able to show you some of these points, historical points. Now, as well as the old bridge, the other two bridges are on the other side. I'll just show you them just now. Now, the one nearest to us is the Royal Borders Bridge on the East Coast Main Line. That's the one that's nearest to us. And the furthest away one, I don't know if you can see it, is the Royal Border on the East Coast Main Line. So that's the three bridges. 2 roads and 1 rail. Now we'll make our way up to town centre. Bridge is over there. Berwick upon Tweed. Berwick upon Tweed, sometimes known as Berwick on Tweed, or just Berwick, is a town and civil parish in the county of Northumberland. It is the northernmost town in England. It is located at the mouth of the River Tweed on the east coast, 2.5 miles, 4 kilometres south of the Scottish borders. The hamlet of Marshall Meadows is the actual northernmost settlement. Berwick is approximately 56 miles, 90 km east-southeast of Edinburgh, 65 miles or 105 km north of Newcastle upon Tyne, and 345 miles, that's 555 km north of London. Uniquely, in England, the town is located slightly further north than Danish capital Copenhagen, and the southern tip of Sweden further east of the northeast, which is Berwick Borders. The 2011 United Kingdom census recorded Berwick's population as 12,043. A civil parish and town council were formed in 2008, comprising the communities of Berwick, Spittal and Tweedmouth. It is the northernmost civil parish in England. Berwick was founded as an Anglo-Saxon settlement during the time of the Kingdom of Northumbria, which was annexed by England in the 10th century. The area was for more than 400 years central to historic border wars between the kingdoms of England and Scotland. And several times possession of Berwick changed hands between two kingdoms. The last time it changed hands was when Richard of Gloucester retook it for England in 1482. To this day, many Berwickers feel a close affinity to Scotland. Both Berwick Rangers Football Club and Berwick Rugby Football Club play in Scottish leagues. Berwick remains a traditional market town and also has some notable architectural features. In particular, its medieval town walls, its Georgian town hall, its Elizabethan ramparts and Britain's earliest barracks buildings, which Nicholas Hawksmoor built in 1717 to 1721 for the Board of Ordnance. Now we'll take a trip up, see if we get the town centre for you. All the signing there, all the signs up there, telling people where to go or where they can go to see the sights. Okay, now the bridge is behind me again. So let's go, we'll take a look. Berwick's name is of the same origin as the archaic word Berwick, denoting a portion of farmland which was detached from a manor and reserved for a lord's own use. This comes from the Old English Berwick, meaning corn farm. More specifically, Ber refers to barley. There are a number of places in Britain with the same name. One such is North Berwick in Scotland, and Berwick upon Tweed has also been called South Berwick in Scottish sources. The medieval seal of the town showed a bear and a witch tree or a wych tree as a pun on the name. So that's the name, Berwick's name. Peek at the town hall there. We'll get round to seeing it, but that's it behind me. There, you see it on the left? Town hall, we'll go and try and get up to it. Many historical buildings here and little roads and alleyways that go back a long way, long time. And here we are, just come off West Street there and was dead smack in the middle of the town centre. Berwick upon Tweed town centre. That's the town hall behind me. There's a lot going on, people moving around here. It's also a market town. This That's Berwick upon Tweed, and this is where they hold the markets every Wednesday and every Saturday. If you came here Wednesday or Saturday, you would see the stalls on the other side there, from top to bottom. Town hall behind me, we're going to see that right now. The town of Berwick was a county corporate for most purposes from 1482 up until 1885, when it was fully incorporated into Northumberland between 1885 and 1974. Berwick, north of the Tweed, was a borough council in its own right. In 1958, the borough's council applied for a coat of arms, but applied to the Lord Lion King of Arms, the Scottish Heraldic Authority, for the grant as suitable to a borough of Scotland, which was duly granted. On 1st of April 1974, the borough was merged with Belford Rural District, Glendale Rural District and Norham, and Islandshire's Rural District to form Berwick Borough Council. Northumberland County Council became the unitary authority for the area when the borough of Berwick upon Tweed was abolished on 1st of April 2009. A new Berwick upon Tweed Town Council, a town council, was created on 3rd March 2008, covering Berwick upon Tweed, Tweedmouth and Spittal. It has taken over the former borough's mayoralty and regalia. The current mayor, first citizen and council chairman is Councillor Gregor Ruffhead. Berwick upon Tweed is in the parliamentary constituency of Berwick upon Tweed. It's a little bit about the Berwick Town Hall, folks, and the subjects attached to it. You know, that building's been up there for quite a long time, Town Hall. High spiral there. And you can see the coat of arms that we mentioned a few minutes ago. Now, the writing up there, it reads, restored AD 1857 to 1858. Joseph Fleming, Esquire, was the mayor then. So that's the town hall, folks. We're going to move on now. Now, the early history of Berwick upon Tweed. In the post-Roman period, the area was inhabited by the Brythons of Brynich. Later, the region became part of the Anglican kingdom of Bernicia. Bernicia later united with the kingdom of Deira to form Northumbria, which in the mid-10th century entered the Kingdom of England under Edred. Berwick remained part of the earldom of Northumbria until control passed to the Scots following the Battle of Carham of 1018. The town itself was founded as an Anglo-Saxon settlement during the time of the Kingdom of Northumbria. Scottish borough. Between the late 10th and early 11th centuries, the land between the rivers Forth and Tweed came under Scottish control, either through conquest by Scotland or through cession by England. Berwick was made a royal borough in the reign of David I. A mint was present in the town by 1153. In 1276, William de Badby was constable of Berwick. It is unclear if this relates to the walled town itself or the castle. While under Scottish control, Berwick was referred to as South Berwick in order to differentiate it from the town of North Berwick, East Lothian, near Edinburgh. Berwick had a medieval hospital for the sick and poor, which was administered by the church. A charter under the Great Seal of Scotland, confirmed by King James I of Scotland, grants the King's chaplain, Thomas Lauder, of the House of God or hospital lying in the borough of Berwick upon Tweed, to be held to him for the whole time of his life, with all lands, tains, rents and profits, etc., belonging to the said hospital, as freely as is granted to any other hospital in the Kingdom of Scotland. The King also commands all those concerned to pay to the grantee all things necessary for the support of the hospital. Dated at Edinburgh, June 8th, in the 20th year of his reign. A little bit about the Scottish borough there, folks. Now I'll take a walk up here, see what's happening. This is Marygate, Church Street, coming up to Church Street now. Dispute territory. Berwick's strategic position on the Anglo-Scottish borders during centuries of war between the two nations and its relatively great wealth led to a succession of raids, sieges and takeovers. We're on Parade Street, going up to Parade Street now to where the barracks are, the oldest barracks in Great Britain, I do believe. And there's all the signs up there. See them? So we'll take a walk down Parade Street. The barracks are down there. Oh, we're coming towards the barracks now. The Berwick Barracks and Main Guard. This is what the sign says here. Berwick Barracks and Main Guard. A range of attractions in an 18th century barracks. Shows you how old the barracks are, 18th century. That's the entrance. As you can see, there's the parade square there. The home of the King's Own Scottish Borderers. The barracks. And there's the parade square there behind us. You can see they've got some cannons out there. But the soldiers would do a bit of square bashing up and down that famous barracks square. Open to tourists. They'll have set times. I think you may have to phone in if you want to go straight in and see some of the artefacts and barrack rooms, etc. The barracks were built between 1717 and 1721 by Nicholas Hawksmoor for the Board of Ordnance to protect the town during the Jacobite Rising. The work, which involved 2 parallel blocks of military accommodation, was supervised by Captain Thomas Phillips. An additional block was added between 1739 and 1741 after the Napoleonic Wars. The barracks were abandoned but put back into use in the 1850s. Following the children's reforms, the barracks became the depot of the King's Own Scottish Borderers, who arrived from Fulford Barracks in July 1881. The regiment moved out of the barracks in 1963, and they are now maintained by English Heritage. The barracks, the Berwick Barracks, sometimes known as Ravensdown Barracks, is a former military installation of the British Army in Berwick upon Tweed, England. Museum. The museum hosts an exhibition entitled By Beat of Drum, which shows the life of the British infantrymen. It also houses the last colours of the King's Own Scottish Borderers before it was amalgamated into the Royal Regiment of Scotland in 2006. Guardhouse to my right. Front entrance. Today, soldiers live in barracks that are purpose-built, secure accommodation, usually separated from the civilian population. In early 18th century, Britain, however, barracks were rare. People had been wary of large concentrations of soldiers since the civil wars of the mid-17th century, when armed forces had often terrorised and oppressed civilian communities. In consequence, it had become normal for a regiment of soldiers to be dispersed over a wide area, housed in taverns and livery stables. However, dispersal was a strategic disadvantage in the event of real danger. When time was wasted assembling a regiment to fight as one force against the enemy, in the aftermath of the 15th, the British government decided that the need for barracks to hold a concentrated force of Berwick upon Tweed overrode the usual sensitivities. The entrance to the barracks, bearing the arms of George I, reigned 1714 to 1727, during whose reign they were built. That's it up there. The plan of the barracks. The barracks, built to accommodate 600 men and 36 officers, are arranged in 4 ranges around the barrack square. The grandest element, a stone arched entrance, bears the coat of arms of King George I, which we've just seen. It was originally flanked by simple screen walls that closed off the square. Today's single-storey buildings and guardhouse and an officer's mess are 19th century additions. The longer sides of the square are framed by the three-storey accommodation ranges facing each other, with the fourth side taken up by the clock block. The latter was built in 1739 to 1741. You can see it behind me there. To replace the original ordnance storehouse, which had proved to be too small. On the outer sides of all three ranges were walled compounds for support buildings, including latrines and an outside storage area for the ordnance storekeeper. Plan of the barracks there. The two accommodation ranges were for both officers and other ranks. Their original stone faces were screened in concrete in the 19th century, making them even more severe. Each range has a double plan with an M-shaped roof and is subdivided into blocks by 4 staircases that serve all floors. In each range, 3 staircases serve 4 soldiers' rooms on each floor, 72 in all. Each room was plain with a window and a fireplace. There were no latrines or washing facilities inside. The 4th stair in each range nearest to the entrance served an officer's block in Hawksmoor design. The officers' blocks comprised separate but linked pavilions, but as built they were distinguished from the soldiers' blocks only by windows with arched heads rather than flat ones. Officers had comfortable accommodation and could often expect individual rooms. That's a little bit into the accommodation for the soldiers. Life in the barracks. Ordinary soldiers were from the unskilled poor in society, and their life was hard. Though the barracks were rarely full, there were often a few hundred soldiers living in them. Conditions were cramped and insanitary. 8 lived in each room, with 2 sleeping in each wooden bench. Between the beds, a table and benches formed the dining and working table. 1 fireplace provided for warmth and cooking, though coal was often rationed. There were no indoor toilets. At night, everyone used a wooden tub that was emptied in the morning. The odour from sweat, tallow, animal fat, candles, pipe smoke and food would have made the rooms pungent, even by the standards of the day. There was no privacy, even for those few soldiers who were permitted to marry and brought their wives and children to live with them. Regular soldiers spent a lot of time in repetitive drill, much of it on the barracks square. This was designed to install mastery in the use of their personal weapons and discipline in collective manoeuvres and weapons drill, so that these skills would be instinctive in collective manoeuvres and weapons drill, so that these skills would be instinctive in real fighting. Soldiers also took their turn at guard duty, watch anti-smuggling patrols and policing activities in support of the area's civil authorities. So that was an insight into the barracks. The oldest barracks in Great Britain, in Berwick upon Tweed. A photograph of a soldier in the barracks at Berwick upon Tweed. That's him in his room. I think it may be his wife there as well, with a table and some bread and provisions in the middle. So that's what life would have been like, century barracks in Berwick upon Tweed. And behind me there are some of the ramparts and defences to keep the French and the Scots out. But the Scots never came near Berwick upon Tweed after all their buildings and their efforts. Considered to be one of the most expensive projects within the reign of Queen Elizabeth for defence. So that was the defences there. Looking out to the sea where the French maybe might have invaded. And if the French had invaded, well, these defences were supposed to try and keep them out. The view of the sea behind me. The garrison town. There's a plaque. The barracks. Below you are the oldest in Britain. Before the barracks were built, barrack soldiers lived in private lodgings, which I read that script here earlier on. The barracks were used for over 200 years between 1881 and 1964. They were home to the well-known British regiment, the King's Own Scottish Borderers. Now, the political context. The crowns of England and Scotland were united in 1605, but full political union between their parliaments only occurred in 1706 and 1707. Two acts of union from that time, the two countries were governed as one, and together with Ireland formed Great Britain. English and Scots voted for the union. But it was not universally popular in Scotland, despite the potential economic benefits. Jacobite sympathies in Scotland and England resulted in the Rising of 1715, which aimed to place James II's son, also James Stuart, later known as the Old Pretender, on the throne. Although the Jacobite army took over a large part of Scotland, they achieved only stalemate at the Battle of Sheriffmuir, 8 miles north of Stirling in Scotland. On 13th November, the following day, Jacobite force surrendered to British government troops at Preston in England. The bloodshed and near success of the 1715 Rising, the presence of Jacobite sympathisers in England, and the easy penetration of hostile forces as far as Preston stirred the British government to prepare for more trouble. In the Scottish Highlands, though several barracks already existed, more were built as part of a wider counter-insurgency strategy. It also resulted in the new barracks at Berwick's strategic position near the English-Scottish borders and close to the main eastern road linking the two countries. It meant that it always had been an important garrison town. So that's our visit to Berwick upon Tweed, folks. An insight of a few of the historical pointers in the town. Hope you've enjoyed it. Signing out. Hope to see you all on the next journey. TCSS, take care, stay safe, and bye for now.